Mark Cardone, welcome to the Steven Skinner podcast.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, it's great. So again, Rooftop Realty.
Yeah.
Mark Cardone, you have your wife with you too, right?
Joyce.
And she's amazing.
She's
and then
the brain.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. I have my brain is right now enjoying waterfront camp while I'm working away here. But that's awesome. So tell me, and again, you have a few other agents in the office too, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So give me a little bit, because I would love for our again, people that follow us, a little history of Mark Cardone in real estate, because I think you primarily do a lot of commercial, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Where Joyce does, I think, the residential end,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So give me a little backdrop. Why real estate? Why commercial? Who is Mark Cardone?
So why real estate is interesting. So I started in medical device sales. So, I mean, actually, going way back, I started in gym memberships. I've been in sales since I was 15. I was in medical device sales for a while. I got out of that and didn't know what I wanted to do. It was about a month before we got married. I applied to a local bank for a sales job, and I applied at pyramid companies with Bob Condrel. And the bank never called me back. So here we are in real estate, right? And I remember going to the job interview, and it was so interesting because in my head, it's like, oh, this is an easy job. There's empty space, and we just put people in it, right? Like, how hard is this? And I specifically remember the guy who interviewed me telling me, you're not smart enough for this job. And I was like, this is perfect. This is going to go great. And then, from there, Pyramid 2 years, got a lot of gray hair. It was a great training ground. I was with a local real estate developer for about 5 years after that. And, being on the landlord part of the sign where people are calling, what I really picked up was these national companies have, these people who are full-time, who do nothing all day, but negotiate real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've dealt with those people,
course.
Right? But then you get these bakeries and these coffee shops and these local people who the only thing they're focused on is how little can I pay? And what I saw happening, being on the landlord side, was when they focus on that, they tend to get less. They get landlords who don't want to pay for stuff. They get, people who are more difficult to work with. So I really kind of went on a mission to say, look, I want to work with small businesses really specifically and help them not kind of get screwed by the people they're running space from, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because I see your emails that come across again. We have a restaurant, either something that's already outfitted correctly, or on the other hand, we're looking for something.
Right.
And I think a lot of times they're smaller businesses.
Yeah, a lot of times they're smaller businesses. And, the other thing we saw was we see, once businesses get open, the real estate people disappear. We get our check and we go away. But I really think it's everyone's responsibility to support those businesses and to keep them promoted and doing the best we can to keep them open.
That's awesome. Now, your territory-wise, again, where do you? So again, listeners are looking for a space or looking for something commercial. Onondaga County, I know you're in. Do you go? How many other counties you go? I mean, do you?
Really. So on the national side, we work really the entire Northeast. So we have clients we work with in Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. But from a local business, really like Watertown to Cortland.
Yep.
From the north and the south.
So you are traveling. You are putting on some miles then.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people need help everywhere. And, a lot. One of the nice things is the way the business is set up, a lot of times I get the benefit of being able to network with agents in local markets to kind of partner up on stuff. So, if there's someone who has a really difficult requirement, I can call, somebody that I work with closely in Carthage, right? And say, hey, these guys need help. Can you do the legwork? Because they know the local. It's impossible to know every local market.
It's yeah, and the whole commercial, it always fascinated me because the commercial real estate end, it is totally different than the residential
Oh my
end.
God.
Because it's not like the same as an MLS. There is different, I think they have, between LoopNet and there might be some other areas, and I think I see a little bit on the MLS, but it's a whole nother world, which, again, between you, a few other good friends, I know that, but it's one of those things you really got to, they've always said that you have to decide what you're really going to do in real estate and go after that.
You do.
Because it's hard to be, you can't be good at every single area. So how many years are we talking about now in the commercial?
2006.
2006, you've been doing it a few years now.
Yeah. And exactly what you said. I mean, one of the things that I've really noticed, doing this, I mean, even like office space and industrial space are very different than retail, right? And, when I tell people, I focus on storefronts and restaurants, in the post-COVID world, people used to think I was crazy. Now they think the office people are crazy. Right?
Yes.
But like it's really, knowing what a grease trap and Ansel system and those things are is very different than knowing, what a lift is and whatever in industrial space. So I think all real estate has specialties.
Yes.
And
so speaking, we're post-COVID now. So speaking of that now, things have changed and the way people do business changes. And it seems like, retail and restaurants, they always had a hard go at it, and maybe as hard, but what is right now hot? Because I think office is what has been on the struggling side, correct? Office space has been, but am I hearing correct that it's like the flex space and the warehouse space? Is that what's the hottest?
Killing it right now.
So that is what everyone tells me. That is what
everybody wants a warehouse right now. And I think locally specifically, through COVID, a lot of things moved to shipping and online sales, e-commerce, and so I think that type of space is very in high demand. In Central New York specifically, we have the Micron thing happening, so I think you have a lot of people who are hyper focused on that.
So warehouse space, flex space type thing, maybe a little bit shipping with I think of like
docks.
Mini Amazon buildings where you can go do a pickup and you have that type of space here
and
too.
even just big support space. You know what I mean? So people have large spaces with maybe a loading dock where maybe they support another type of business.
Got it.
But interestingly enough, the other sector is restaurant space. Restaurant space is moving much quicker,
much better
than I think what people anticipated.
That's great.
Because there's not a lot of it, and I think because as a community we want to be with other people.
I think people want an experience. They want an experience, and they want it. And again, you can't sit at home forever and get fed. You got to go out somewhere and either eat somewhere or go to a grocery. So that is good to know. So again, talking about the better half now. So Joyce, she does the residential end. Did she jump right into real estate with you right when you got married, or was it later on?
So when we got married, we had kids.
Yep.
She had a great time staying home with the kids while they were young. But as they got older, she said, "Hey, real estate looks interesting, so let's do that." Right. So she actually went and worked for what was Realty USA at the time.
Okay.
And she was there for a couple of years and kind of built her.
Got her feet wet.
Kind of understood it. But what was interesting was as a real estate person, and like you said, commercial and residential, very different.
Totally.
But something I realized was how much different the actual brokerage is and the work demand, and you do commercial too, so it's a lot of cold calling and sales.
Whole other world,
right? Where residential is a lot of relationship building.
Yes.
Which is not to take away from it, but what we saw was agents weren't getting great training. It was a lot of kick them and let's see how they go. And they were, at that time, the splits were ridiculous. They were paying a lot of their money, to the brokerage.
Brokerage firms.
And then we really saw a lot of the larger brokerages were, funding their top agents with the fruits of the, so we just said.
Yep, it all goes to the top.
Yeah, so we said, hey, there's a better way to do this,
That's very cool. And so now you said 2006. Was that 2006 with Rooftop, or is that 2006 you getting into
2006 I got into real estate. 2013 I started doing my own, just kind of sitting on my couch in my house with my laptop.
And then when did Joyce then begin with you?
About 2017.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now family, now
we
it's a
love
true family.
working together, man.
I was going to say, that's dangerous. So my wife and I work together. We worked together for a long time now. And I'll tell you, you know what, it can make or break your relationship, but it seems like it's really made you guys.
Yeah.
And you guys, and again, it's nice that you have your own niche, that you both do your residential end to the commercial end of things.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you mentioned about, like, again, when it comes to commercial, you're still building those relationships, and then through those relationships, it's nice to have this residential wing now with your wife now that's able to take them, because some people that are businesses, everyone wants to live somewhere,
right?
So now, you get this end, you say, hey, I'm going to turn you over to my wife, and she's going to take you through the process here, and that's very cool. Now, when it comes to like warehouse or what's hot right now, flex space, do you see now developers literally like building, like looking for land areas so that they can build like hubs for people to do this? Is that sort of like the in thing, what's happening?
And I think, you've seen this in Syracuse specifically. A lot of our warehouse space has been eaten up, especially like the downtown kind of Inner Harbor area, has been eaten up by residents, because there's a huge demand for rental, for residents, for multifamily. So a lot of our traditional warehouse space got eaten up by that. So now, there are some buildings that are available, and I think one of the misconceptions people say, they'll be driving through Syracuse and they'll be like, oh, look at all the empty warehouses. so many of those are slated for development into
Yes.
apartments, into
Yes.
something, that's no longer usable as a warehouse.
Warehouse.
So we're seeing, people saying, hey, we just need 5 acres, and we're going to put up, there's a development on the corner of, I think, Morgan Road and Buckley right now. It's an electrical contractor, huge industrial building. But even like Restaurant Depot,
Saw that. Huge building.
Amazon. I mean, all the people. Why didn't they just take J.C. Penney at Destiny? Or, people are building new space because it's economical.
No, I know everyone, you can't come to Syracuse now and talk real estate without talking something regarding Micron. So what is your current take? I always love asking people, what is their take? Because it's a widespread range of things. And how much within your daily work has Micron affected, or even just to talk with other brokers out there, or for your clients? What has occurred with Micron?
So, I mean, when the news first dropped, right, we got 100 phone calls a day from people who said, I'm ready to invest in land, right? And as we know, I mean, just like with the stock market, right? As soon as the news drops of something, you're too late. So
Too late,
people are going, hey, I want to buy some land. It should be cheap, right? Yeah, no. And I think concurrently what we saw, and I mean, a lot of real estate agents did this, but they called every person who owned property within a 5-mile radius of where the development was going to happen, and said, hey, look, these things are going to go up in value, and rightfully so they are. I mean, at some point those properties are going to go up in value. So we really saw kind of a peak in pricing in that Clay, Cicero. I mean, I've lived in Central New York my entire life. I love the local business scene. I love even the national. But look, I love Starbucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Big names.
But I also love Crack Bean Roastery. Right.
Yes.
Like I love the locals.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there are so many great things here. I hope that Micron just adds to that, and inflates it. I'm not a person who jumps on things unless I'm involved in it myself, because I can't make promises for something that I'm not involved in.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think it's great for the local market.
Yeah. What about now, even when it comes to like hotels, tourism, things of that nature? Do you get, if there's someone listening to this podcast that is either a developer for tourism type things, do you get involved in that? Like, what would be the Mark Cardone niche? Is it mainly retail or restaurants, or do you go out and say, hey, I will help you find something here or do something?
I say really anything where people go. Because I understand that, right? I understand experience. I understand, co-tenancy and shopping patterns and hotel stays and all of those things. And we refer out a lot. If somebody said, hey, I need to build a 20,000 square foot office building tomorrow, I have people that we're connected to that we can say, and just like you do, right? People we're connected to, I can say, look, this is the person. And something in real estate that I notice a lot, right, is we tend to refer out, but some agents tend to refer out to the person who gives them the biggest referral fee. And the longer you're in business, and a lot of the people that we work with who are in business, it's not about the referral fee. It's about making sure that you're with the right partner who's going to take care of you.
Yes.
Right? And just because I'm licensed to sell a house doesn't mean I'm going to do it, because I'm not good at it. Right? I'm going to pass that along to Joyce, and she's really good at it.
Yes.
Right? The money's less important. It's about the service.
No, I think it's awesome. I think the big thing, just knowing you, it's big on relationships. Also, I think people are getting away from the agents now that are really just stuck up into themselves. More the laid back agent. It's a fine line, because every client wants someone who's motivated for them, but they don't want someone who's just breathing down their neck too.
That's right.
So I think the nice thing you offer is you offer a lot of variety, you offer a lot of care. And I just love it that, again, my heart's always been for, again, the little guy, the smaller company. I mean, again, it's great to have a big company here and there, but they're far and few between. To be able to represent small businesses that take off the ground and really flourish is something very, very cool. What if you were just, I don't know, if you're just thinking about your last year, 2 years here, what has been maybe a fun, exciting deal that you brought together? Is there something that comes to your mind that said, hey, this restaurant thing or this whatever? I mean, it could be something unique, either housing or where else. Is there anything that comes to your mind that you've either seen done or that you personally were part of that it just would be something cool and fascinating?
I really can't say anything specific in the past year or two that's really stood out, because I mean, all those local businesses are, they're all different things, and that's one of the great things about the local businesses is, every food truck that we work with, right? They're all different, and they all have their own things. And I mean, one of the things that I really enjoy is we're huge into the food truck population, actually, really all over the country.
It's awesome.
And it's just so cool to be able to meet these people who just have a passion for cooking, right, and making great food, and seeing them expand into brick and mortar is great. But even if you don't, you at least get the relationship with them. And like you said, they might need a house someday. That's great. But we're just passionate about that. I love food. I like to eat.
I love it. Even today, in our warehouse, we have a frozen yogurt machine that had been sitting there, an extra one. And sure enough, food truck place called us up, and they need a frozen yogurt thing to wheel it right into that truck. So it is cool how people are using their talents and to benefit everyone else. Last question. If someone was going to get into real estate, I know we all sort of cringe, not because we're afraid of competition. We know the work involved.
Yeah.
What if someone wanted to get into commercial real estate? What would you tell them, just from your experiences and going through? Obviously, we love for them to join your team, but what would you tell them to be ready for if in this 21st century, 2023, post-COVID, to even be able to succeed as a commercial broker, even residential? What would you pass on to someone?
You've got commercial real estate. You have to run fast, right? And that's something that industry terms, speed to lead, things like that, right? You have to be fast. People want answers today, and with the speed that space moves, right? You have to be on top of it. You can't let things go 2-3 days. Time kills deals. First lesson I learned at Pyramid, right? Time kills deals. But real estate's I say 8-hour-a-day job because a lot of agents don't work 4 hours, right? Real estate's an all-the-time job, and you have to be ready, to be making those phone calls and doing the work. But really at the core of it, right? If you want to be successful, not just in it, but you want to be successful and happy, right? Which is really like a big part of I don't care if I make $1 million or I make $20,000. I want to be happy and I want to enjoy my family and my kids.
Yes.
And if you want that, right, it's really about building those and nurturing those long relationships. I mean, because you do it, right? The number of tenants I've brought to your buildings, right? Because
I love it.
you don't buy buildings to make a lot of money. You buy buildings because you want to make that community better.
Yes.
And because of that, affordable rents for people, right? Good service. You take care of properties. It's really, you have to have that heart-led leadership to be able to succeed in commercial real estate. And I think that's a misconception because people don't think that when they think commercial brokers. They think, hard and mean and straight to the direct, which that is a thing too, But I think you really have to be a heartfelt leader now if you want to work with business owners.
Yeah, and when I think of what you have done and what Joyce, both of you guys as a team there at Rooftop, I think of commitment. I mean, you guys have been committed to real estate. I would just, appreciate all the years of hard work because literally I think I can probably relate real estate to a lot of things, but I think of a lot of it as a farmer. You're going to till that soil, you're going to plant whatever you plant, or if you're going to have a vineyard, it's not going to be plentiful your first year or second year, third year. And a lot of times people quit too soon.
Sure.
So it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of care and customer service and relationships, everything you guys have exuded, and the fact that it takes time. I know. I work with so many young agents and new agents, and I tell them, be prepared that this is a lifestyle, and if you're going to get into it thinking I have to make it big in 6 months or a year, probably not the right industry for you.
Right.
But go to something else that gives you a paycheck weekly or biweekly. But this is something rewarding, like you said, for your family, even generations to come, that you can build. But commitment. So I appreciate you, Mark, coming on the Stephen Skinner podcast.
Yeah.
I again say hi to Joyce for us, and again continue to do the great things you're doing in the commercial world.
Thanks for having me, my man.
All right.